But the problem is that after the Sinquefield Cup, Alireza apparently started organizing an interesting tournament that, in fact, has not finished yet in France, in his hometown, organized, I believe, by the political circles around it, the mayor, if I'm not mistaken. He organized this tournament and basically called out some 2,500 retired, more or less, grandmasters to play Alireza. Alireza is on 5 out of 5. Right now, he's, as the moment of this recording, he is qualified if he decides to withdraw from the tournament. And he still has one game tomorrow against Fedorchuk. He needs to win, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think he can draw. So he needs to win. I think you're right. I think he needs to win. He needs to win that one. Now, he has the option of withdrawing. I actually have no idea what has happened, whether he has decided on that or not. But this is the big question. This is a big one, right? Because, I mean, organized event in the last moment against some retired GMs in which you need to score high. Anybody can do that. There's some questions about it. What do you think about this one?
Okay, well, to start with, I think that if he were to not play the next game against Fedorchuk, as in not complete the tournament, I actually think that it's pretty clear FIDE should not be rating this event.
Interesting. Okay.
That's the first thing, because you can't play a tournament where you decide how many games. First you organize it, and then you decide how many games you play based on your requirements. I also thought this was super weird. People were saying if Lenier gains a rating, then he can withdraw halfway. I was like, this shouldn't be allowed. Of course he should be allowed to play the tournament, but you should have to complete the tournament fully, because it's just you go to a tournament, you go there for a few games. Your aim in a tournament should be to either win the tournament or to get a prize or whatever. It should be a sporting event, and you should be aiming for something within the confines of the tournament. It shouldn't be okay, I'm here to beat a 2,000 player, a 2,100, and then I'll go home and I'll take my 1.6 rating points that I got. Well, to start with, I think that the one rating spot, it was ridiculous from the start. I think I said this to you. I maybe said it publicly as well. But one rating spot should never be FIDE. I mean, how could you possibly think one rating spot is a good idea? It was clear from the beginning, and maybe I was making some jokes. I actually, at some point, didn't care because I qualified through the World Cup. So if people want to organize some tournaments, it's really not it doesn't affect me anymore. I still don't think it should be done, but it doesn't affect me. So I'm not going to launch some. Actually, okay, let's go back 1 year, because I'm not going to say I won't launch an official complaint. So 2022 candidates 1 year ago. Last cycle. So if we start with Russia invaded Ukraine and started a war. And after this, Karyakin expressed his support publicly, but also in a way that not only was it public, but it was very distasteful. To put it mildly, right? He said some things online that were really bad. No matter how you view things.
No matter which side you're on, yes, this was really bad. Very insensitive.
No, I mean, it's not even about sides. It's just that
very insensitive. Yes,
it's even if you're, let's say, wrong on an issue, there's ways to be wrong, but still people can understand where you're coming from somewhat. Or there's ways to be wrong, but also it's you do in a really bad fashion.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's not important. But what happened was he was excluded from the candidates for this. So there was an ethics committee hearing, whatever. I don't know the details, but he was banned from playing. So he was qualified for the candidates by getting second place in the 2021 World Cup. So he's out of the candidates, and this opens up one rating list spot. Now, the second highest rated player in the world at the time was Ding Liren. Magnus Carlsen was first, but Magnus was world champion. He was not going to play the candidates. So now Ding was the rating spot favorite. because after Karakin was disqualified, the rating spot opened up. So Ding would make it, right?
Yes.
Well, Ding had not played enough games. He had actually played like no games. So he was not eligible. And now what happened next was that a bunch of local matches, you can call them matches, I guess, were organized. Basically, he played 4 games against 3 players. So it was a 4-player quadruple round robin. And the results were interesting of this tournament. Ding scored 3.5 against all the players, and all the players drew against each other. Mm-hmm. So we had this very interesting table where they all score half a point against him, and then they all score 2 points against each other with all draws, which is an unusual result. And basically, it was he needed to play his 28 games, or whatever the requirement was. I think 28. He played his 28 games. He maintained his rating of 28-12, whatever it was, doesn't matter. It was enough to qualify. And he went to the candidates, and the rest was history.
Talk about a butterfly effect.
Yeah. And then he played the candidates. He got 2nd place. He qualified for the World Championship. He won the World Championship, and he's the world champion. But everything that happened after that is kind of not very relevant for this discussion. It's just that there was a series of tournaments or matches, whatever, that was organized locally for 1 rating spot, which Ding qualified by. And people didn't really have a problem with it at the time because Ding was number 2 in the world, and all he did was play the amount of games he needed to. Now, I think that this is a fundamental misunderstanding of what the rating actually is, because rating is not a number that you achieve once and you have it forever. Kasparov is 28-12. He hasn't played for 18 years, yeah. But he's 28-12. Now, we understand he's not 28-12 level. And after Ding started to play actively, he lost 30 points, mm-hmm. which can happen. Mm-hmm. Like when I also at some point lost like 70 points. I mean, it can happen. Mm-hmm. If you don't play, you can't lose rating. So I don't see the difference between those events and what's happening now. Because even though he kept his rating, he didn't increase it. Still, we have a series of events played locally against weaker players. And you can argue about the legitimacy of the games or the results or whatever, but it's clear that this should not be how a candidate spot is decided. So why would they decide it's not a bad idea to have the exact same system where you can play events last minute for 1 rating list and boost your rating or whatever it is, and then people will always ask questions about it, whether it's legitimate or not. We don't know, right? I have no idea about the legitimacy of the tournament that Ding played. I wasn't there.
Yes.
But it still shouldn't be. You shouldn't qualify like that.
Yeah.
It should. The system should not allow it. It's not that the players. Well, okay, I wouldn't do it personally, even if the system allowed it. But the players, it shouldn't be up to the players. The system should not be in place that you can play last-minute events for 1 rating list. I don't see the difference. People say there's a difference because Ding had the rating. But you have to risk your rating. You can't just keep your rating forever and say, well, I'm playing my events. I mean, I have my rating. I'm not losing it. I'm not gaining it. Let's say I achieve my 28 whatever level, and I never play another game except I play some 2400s in my local club or 2500s, and I draw a few games, I win a few, and I keep my rating forever. And people go, well, yeah, he's just maintaining his rating. I mean, what difference does it make if you're maintaining or you're gaining? The aim of the tournament is to qualify by rating, and so you should be playing in competitive events. By competitive, I mean players who are motivated to beat you, players who want to beat you. That's the whole point.